Well, so yeah, tell me about yourself first of all. Like, I'm really curious. I made the joke about you working for Kia, and you said that you don't. So what you said you're a student. Tell me what's going on with you.
See, I'm currently in 11th grade
Okay.
studying science and I'm opting for like engineering. About the programming stuff, if I tell you, then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started programming at a very early age. Like in 7th standard, I learned C++ because my teacher, in one of my book, it was written that C++ is a programming language and you can instruct computers. So a question arose in my mind that how can we even say computer to do some work with a language? Like I used to play games at that time only computer,
Yeah.
and if someone told me that you can say computer to do this particular task, and I just questioned my teacher, how can we do that? So he said, just Google it. So I came
Yeah.
home
Sure.
and I googled it and I installed an app called Solo Learn and I started learning from it. I had no idea what I'm doing, but after a month I realized that there is something. Means it's like amazing world of programming, and I just got into it somehow.
So, first of all, totally get that feeling of having no idea what you're doing because that's been me most of my life. But I want to ask you about like before we get in, I've got your code pulled up for one of your projects. That was the twin finder. I know you had originally suggested something else, but I like this one a lot and I want to look at it.
What the
But
twin?
before getting into that, I wanted to ask you something about. So you're in India. I forget the province, but I saw it when we were trying to connect initially. And tell me about like, I feel like seeing some of these things on Facebook, I see a lot of people developing on their phones and on like mobile devices and stuff. So is this because of network issues and stuff like that? Like, tell me like culturally, what's different about learning this kind of thing, or like what's a unique challenge about what you like being in India doing this?
See, I also used to program in mobile in my early days, so I can totally understand those people are just starting up. Like one of
Yeah.
my friend was there, and he asked me how can he start up coding and how can he start learning making codes. So I just suggested him that install this app. I started it the same way.
Yeah.
So most of the people could not afford to buy a laptop, even not a phone sometimes. So what they do is they save their yearly savings. Yearly they save and then they buy a laptop. So initial days of programming that's totally goes on mobile phone. You can't afford to buy a laptop.
Wow. I mean, I feel like as an American, if people had to try that hard, they just wouldn't do it. Like so the fact that like the people I see in India, I think especially the fact that they are saying like, no way, I'm going to do this. You can't stop me. I'm just going to do it on my phone. I mean, that's cool. That's really, really cool. Well, I am going to go ahead and share my screen and start looking at your project. And well, speaking of design, okay, so I'm going to talk about your thing in just a second. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, clearly.
Perfect. So I'm going to start us off. How do you say your name? Sathrak?
Sarthak.
Sar Sartak.
Yes,
I have to
Sarthak.
anglicize it a little bit.
Sarthak Gupta.
Sartak Gupta. I'm going to say it like a white person, so that's just a.
Very common name in it.
Is it very common?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have
Cool.
my two classmates with the same name.
Oh, do you really?
Yes.
Funny. Okay. Well, I'll introduce you, and then we'll just talk. And you don't need to say anything. So I'm gonna start us off by saying I'm here with Sartak. Sartak, right?
Namaste.
Sartak. Namaste. All right. I'm gonna start us over. I'm here with Sartak, and we're going to look at a website that he created, and we're going to do a kind of code review of the. I want to talk about the design first of all because I'm impressed with the way that it looks and some of the things that you've done, but then also kind of give you some feedback because I know we chatted a moment ago, and that Sartak, you have been doing this for a long time. You started way earlier than I certainly did, but so maybe you can we can learn from each other. But the point of this is to do a code review, and let me start off by saying I do this because like I professionally develop software like that. That's my job during the day. Like I get up, I go to work, and I work for a large company, writing software. So tell me, you're in school, and this is kind of where you're headed as well. This is what you'd like to do. Is you're doing web dev and stuff like that now, and this is where you'd like to take your career. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's I would like to take it as a career because that's why I'm doing it. So it's just a
Awesome.
different world where you get in and everything is yours. You can create anything. Like mostly, why I get into front end development was because the thing you do is what you see in back end.
Yeah.
You just do, and the all the code works behind, and that was like kind of boring for me. But this is amazing for some programmers, but for me, I like to just create things. I like to design things. That's why I
Yeah.
just get into front end development, and I just focus more on design. This website also has only front end, only design, no back end at all.
And that makes sense, right? And I think there's plenty to learn. I think a lot of people who start, a lot of people just start doing front end for the reasons that you say, that you can see what you're doing. It kind of makes sense. You don't have to know a lot of computer science-y type stuff when you first get started. So we're going to take a look, and I think that makes sense. So for starters, I have seen so many of these where like it looks great, and I can't tell if it's just because you have a great background image. You know what I mean? Like you have a great so like here, let's see. If it won't let me. Thank you. I thought I couldn't open DevTools while I had the screen share going on. So here is your background. Yeah. If I turn that off, like let's see. I mean, I think the design is still slick, and I still think I mentioned this on your personal site. That's not a bad font. You've got at least two fonts going on, and I think
Yeah.
they go together really well. And I think overall, even if we take away that background image, it still looks pretty cool. So, I mean, just starting off, I think, points for design. I think you definitely did a good job there. And so, but the point of this is to talk about code. So not just to look at the way that your site looks, but it's also to look at the way that you've written the code. So this is cool. These are real slick. Okay, so let's look at what you wrote. So I've got that pulled up here. And we've got a bunch going on. So I pulled this from your Git repository where you had this project, and we've got a bunch of stuff. If we look on the left, we've got your .git file, GitHub, this stuff we're not going to care about. Okay, your scripts, sketches is pretty much just assets. This is just images that you're using. These are all vectors. Styles. Now you've got your CSS and additional images. Here's your Jumbotron image. And then you got videos. So we've got a bunch of different assets. Okay. My first thought would be, if I were you and if I were developing this to be maintained by a team, which is one of the things that like, if you're not structuring your application so that it can be worked on by a team, you can do whatever you want. It's all just a matter of preference, right?
Yeah.
But there are best practices to follow when you structure your project, and really it's so that other people can get in and very conveniently start to work with it. So if I were doing this, if this were on, for instance, my team or one of the teams that I oversee, I would say, okay, let's create an assets folder, and I'm going to put all of your sketches and your images and your videos into an assets folder instead of having them kind of spread out. That's just first little feedback from me, is the way that you structure your folders. You want to put all the similar things together. The next thing is, I notice in your head, first of all, good job with annotations. I think I see this throughout, and I glanced at this a little bit earlier today, where
Actually,
you've got
these annotations are from Git Bootstrap.
It's from Bootstrap.
Yeah, I just copied the boilerplate from Bootstrap.
You could have taken credit for this, dude. You could have said, no, that was all me. That was good. Okay. Well, you're honest. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you didn't do it, then you should. This is great. Even just having these little things, like, I get it. You can look at the name and say that this is the about section. Like, you can read into it, but having the comments that really clearly break out the sections, I appreciate that a lot. I think that helps.
Yeah, that thing is done by me. That one.
Nice. Okay. So we talked about comments. Now, okay, we're going to go back here because that was the first thing that stood out is you say, here's my required, just like regular meta tags. Here's my bootstrap. Here's font awesome, jQuery. Okay. Next thing that jumps out is, you should generally put your JavaScript at the end, at the bottom of your body, right? Because the idea is, are you familiar with this concept that you should always put your JavaScript last?
Yeah. But then there's
Yeah.
also a concept like preloading JavaScript and after loading JavaScript. This front-end library, Font Awesome, is written, and you don't need to like after like how do I make you understand like so whenever I use a library, I just put it in the header and nothing else because that's pre-written. That's going to give me no errors at all. So everything will be loaded from the before my web page loads, and then I could use all the things after. Like custom your JavaScript is in the last of my body.
So I get it that sometimes you have like dependencies that are early on that don't load well without like having accompanying JavaScript. Just in general, it sounds like you know this though. I mean, just in general, it's a good idea. And in fact, what I'd love to do, I'm not going to do it now, but what you could do is you could throw that JavaScript at the bottom and then do a lighthouse. See, I'm not on Chrome, but you could do a test to see what is your time to usability, like time to full render, and see how long that is I mean, you're loading all of jQuery, right? I mean, you're loading, yeah. Oh, this is Slim. All right. So you've got like a minify, like a cut down version of jQuery, but still that's probably, I don't know, a few kilobytes. I'm not sure. So if you had a reason for putting it up top, then, you know, that's a little bit different. That's just first thing, a few things to jump out.
I just used to do it by default everything.
Yeah. By default, what?
By default boilerplate, just putting script in the head by default.
Ah, I see. So next is all of this. Next is that we've got a ton of stuff coming in. We've got Font Awesome, we got Bootstrap, and then we've got your styles that have been broken out into different files.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love that. I love that you've got your sign in as a separate style sheet from styles is awesome.
Why I put them into different files?
Tell me.
I myself got very much frustrated while editing.
You were frustrated while editing?
Yeah, I had to scroll a lot, and then I just decided that I will put them in separate files. I had to scroll a lot because of this.
I mean, again, it's a stylistic decision, like how you want to do this, how you're going to break out your code.
Yeah.
But again, speaking of like from the mindset of how are other developers going to experience this, if you had this really clearly broken out, like if we look back here, and if you had dedicated styles, for instance, if you had shared styles that you expect to go across the entire application, I see you've got what will eventually be a profile page and a discover page and a sign-in process. You're planning other parts to this, and I imagine that if you had shared styles, you could have that in a separate style sheet. And the idea of breaking them out, like I've mentioned before, I work mostly in Angular, and it kind of encourages this with the whole component structure in Angular. So I love that. But if this were live, now we're hosting this locally, so all we have to do is just look at these files on our computer. But can you tell me, Sartak, if this were live, what would be, do you know the problem that we would have here, why this would be an issue?
About this, I don't know.
So every one of these, if you look, are you familiar with the network inspector in your DevTools?
No, I've never gone into it.
So this shows you all of the different requests, all of the different network calls that are being made when your page loads. And we don't really, I mean, we are requesting from Font Awesome, from jQuery. We're reaching out to the internet and we're saying, hey, internet, I've used this CDN link, this content delivery network, StackPath, Bootstrap, CDN, right? Does it say CDN? No, it doesn't. Oh, bootstrapcdn.com. Here we go. The content delivery network. And I'm requesting this CSS file. Give it to me. and it's going to load. We're sending out an HTTP request, and that file is going to be sent down using our internet connection. And we have to get it, right? We have to get it before the rest of our page can look pretty if we're using CSS, right? So every one of these is a separate network call. So we're going to reach out over the internet, grab something, come back. Reach out over the internet, grab something, come back. So this is why we have build tools like It's part of Angular. Webpack, thank you. You would use something like a Webpack to bundle all of this. I love that you've kept it separate. I think that's awesome, like in your actual CSS files. But I would recommend, if you're going to go that route, to also run this through Webpack and go through a build step. And what Webpack will do is this will just have when you're done, you'll have a link with its a rel style sheet type like this, and it's going to be a bundle. So it'll take all of this, minify it, and combine it into a single CSS file, and then you'll make a single network call for this single CSS file. Does that make sense?
That's great.
Say it again.
That's great. Well, I don't know how to use Backpack, but if
Google it. That's your whole life, right? Figure it out.
I wish I could do that.
What do you mean you wish you could do it?
Yeah, I have. I have given up programming for nearly about 5 months since this whole coronavirus came out. So online classes started, and now I have very less time for programming. And I just hope that I just want to find that man who invented online classes.
And you want to kill him?
No. I will make him sit for hours of his online classes. Then he will realize what impact it creates. I'm not
a little contrapasso.
I'm not getting any time for programming right now. I have a lot to do. Like I have to solve sheets. I have to learn the concepts, watch lecture videos, and
yeah,
it's just doing a lot.
Sounds like it.
But I had to give world's toughest exams at JEE Advanced, so you had to study.
You had to do what?
I had to study because I have to get that world's toughest exam, JEE Advanced.
You have to do all your exams.
Yeah.
Yeah, goodness
the
gracious.
engineering exam of India. That's the toughest in the world.
Oh, really?
If you search on Google, what's the toughest engineering entrance exam, you will see JEE Advanced.
No, really? Crazy.
Yes. You know why it's tough?
Why is that?
Because every year, 1.2 million students appear for this exam, and only 200,000 qualify for the next round. So the selection rate is just 1%, and from that 2 lakhs, the second level is just 10,000 qualify the second level and get admission into IITs.
Crazy. Well, I better not waste any more of your time. Holy crap, dude. That's crazy. Well, I get it though. I get not having time. I mean, that makes sense. So let's go back and say we've talked about CSS. We talked about bundling. I'm not going to look through your HTML because I think that's kind of boring. I think once you get HTML, there's not a lot of like.
Yeah, there's nothing.
It makes sense.
The thing which will amaze you is CSS.
Oh, will that amaze me?
Yeah. Like,
okay.
Have you hovered on the goodbye text?
On the goodbye, yes, and it fades away. All right, let's see how you're doing that.
Yeah.
All right, I feel challenged. I got to do something about this. All right, so does it come back? It comes back on its own. Goodness gracious, what are you doing here?
Yeah, but it fails in the mobile version.
On hover, it fails in mobile?
No, basically you have to tap on the goodbye, and I thought I just wanted to make that if you scroll, then goodbye will automatically fade, but I was not able to do that.
So you're combining a blur, you're changing the opacity, and you're transforming scale on each of these.
Yeah.
And with a transition delay of 0.2 seconds, that's your Ghost class, Ghost 2 class. That's pretty slick. I mean, that's like 4 styles. Is that it?
Yeah. And
Hold
also,
on.
let's just over it.
There we go. Because you still got a scale going on somewhere. That's cool, man. Yeah. I mean, first of all, hats off. That looks cool. Like it's hard to make CSS effects that don't look cheesy, but that looks cool. Yeah. Was that all you, or did you copy that from somewhere?
Copy in the sense like I learned it from a video.
But still, well done. Well done. Well done. I like you. You're honest, man. I like that. All right. So I wasn't going to look at your CSS. Again, I feel like to review CSS, I mean, I feel like what would I do? I'd say, oh, these could have been combined into a class, into one class. Right?
Really?
No, I'm just joking. But I mean, my only response about CSS would be I make heavy use of CSS variables, or if you write in Sass, like Sass variables, it's a little bit safer because then if you ever have to support Internet Explorer, and of course, Internet Explorer doesn't do anything, and so it won't support CSS variables. But if you're writing Sass and then the Sass compiles to CSS, then the variables kind of come out in the wash and you can still use variables in Sass. So I write in Sass exclusively. And make heavy use of variables for things like your green here. Here, let's get out of mobile, or let's get out of that. You got your accent color here, your primary color. If you're doing this for a customer and your customer said, I don't like the way this orange goes with that green. Well, what if in the meantime you had a site with 35 pages and this green and orange were all over the place? You'd want to be able to change that green in one place instead of doing a global find and replace for every instance of it throughout your files, right?
CSS variable.
And it only takes one time for it to piss you off. And then you're like, nope, I'm always going to use variables from here on out. That's just, I mean, like I said, this is minor. I'm sure your CSS is fine. This looks good.
I made this website, I guess 2 years ago. I made this. And that time I didn't know about CSS variables.
You what now? What about CSS variables?
Yeah, I basically had no idea about CSS variable. That was just beginning of me with CSS, and I was just learning front end at that time.
Did a good job for just learning front end at the time. Okay, as always, the most interesting thing is your JavaScript. So where is that? Is it at the bottom of your thing? Scripts.js. Where is that? Scripts. Okay, we've got our own folder. We've got some sort of library. This is not you.
Not the library. It's video.
Yeah, you wrote this one. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is why we're using jQuery.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me, is there something you want to mention about this?
Yeah, this. Well, the first part, this navbar resize background, it's for a responsive view, and just code and remove. Okay, so the nav bar right there in the top, so it's for that. The color, basically, if you back to the Chrome, if you resize your window and just scroll a bit, if you just scroll,
it fades in that color.
Yeah, that part.
Crazy. Okay, so first thought is this looks fine. Okay, yeah. Wait a second.
There's just a class. I just give it when it is scrolled and take away when it is on the 0 position, like on the top.
That makes sense. You're listening to see, first of all, if the width is such and such, then we're going to add or remove a class, right? Otherwise, we're going to remove this class scrolled, navbar scroll background. Fine. First of all, never, ever, ever use var anymore unless you have to support some weird old version of Microsoft products, an old Explorer version. This should all be let.
Okay.
That's just first thing. You don't have to use an arrow function here, but I would.
function.
And again, you wrote this when you were
ES6.
first starting off. ES6, exactly. So the next thing is, I think this looks fine.
Hmm.
Where's your closing parentheses here? If window with, oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. I was like, what? How is this not
There
throwing an
after the
error?
number.
Okay. Yeah. I would drop jQuery. I think you are not using any interesting jQuery functionality unless oh, is it toggle class remove? No, this is all vanilla JS stuff. So like, for instance, if I said, instead of $window,
Hmm.
can't I just say window? Window.width? And then let nav, I'm going to remove your dollar signs. If nav, if I said let nav as a variable equal, document get element by ID, take out your pound sign, and then bam, I mean, we kind of have the same thing, don't we? That resize, I don't know if this is something from jQuery, but let's just see. I mean, if I do this, is this going to work? And I'll reload your page. So what do you expect that to do? If the window width is a certain thing, then you're going to add this class scrolled to your main nav bar.
I think it's not working.
It's not working? Okay, so maybe it's not window.width. I think in vanilla JS, it's probably something a little bit different to get the window width. But the point is, you can do it. You could do this with vanilla JS. You could do this with vanilla JS. Unless I'm missing something, I would think, again, if this were a production project and you were going forward with it and it was going to get bigger, I would recommend cutting out jQuery entirely, because let's look at our network. jQuery is 68 kilobytes. It's the second largest thing that's coming down the wire for you after your Bootstrap CSS. See, this is 152 kilobytes. This is 68 kilobytes. This will improve your load time and increase your simplicity by removing jQuery entirely, if that's all you're doing with it. Is this all you're doing with it?
That's a good idea.
I have no feedback about the way that you structured this. I mean, this makes sense. You just got, your nested functions, some conditions. I don't know that I would do this any differently, but I would definitely drop jQuery, use CSS variables, use a build tool. Nice job with your CSS.
Yeah.
Nice job with comments, even
Thank
if you
you.
didn't really do that part, even if that wasn't yours. And it looks good. Like that's hard. I see a lot of stuff, especially on Facebook. I see a lot of people posting things that it's just ugly, and I get it. People are starting off, but this is a beginner project. You could do this as like one of your first projects, which it sounded like you did. You could do this as a very early project, and yours looks good. So I don't want to hear any more. Nobody has any excuse to make ugly beginner projects, because this looks nice.
Have you clicked on the sign in?
I have. I like your. Oh, I haven't clicked. Oh dear, goodness gracious! Wow, this looks good. See, though, you've got your. Okay, this is the same kind of orange red color, but then we've got where's this blue coming from? I don't think that blue goes well with the green and your orange. Your customer would have a problem with this. Sorry, Doc, I'm telling you.
I really struggle on choosing colors. Sometimes I ask my mom which color will be better for my website.
Yeah, dude.
Because she's really good at that.
That's awesome. And you got validation?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like girls do a better job at it. They have an eye for beauty,
Yeah. I just read about validation on SolarRun, so I tested it out on here.
What calls are we making? Hold on just a second. Interesting. Oh, we're just reloading CSS when the form submits. Oh, you've got to. This is a form.
The icon is not loading up.
What icon? This guy here?
No. Just next to password, there was an eye icon, so that you can toggle show password and like that.
Oh, interesting.
Not loading up right here.
So these are working. Sign up. Oh man.
Well, they were just
Yeah.
links.
Cool. Oh, it's got to be a valid out email. And you're doing the validation for this.
Yeah.
That's nice, man. We got a different background animation, existing user.
My pleasure. Thanks. You know, I've asked a lot of people to review my website, my friends mostly. So what they say is, yeah, website looks good, yeah, fine. And I didn't get any review like, what should I improve? Should I add a new feature? Should I remove one? Is something causing you a problem in my website? They're just like, yeah, you have created a good website. Never got a good review. But yeah, you go give me a very good review, and I would definitely follow these steps.
Nice, man. I'm glad. I hope it works out. Well, you know, that's it. I think I don't have anything else for you, man. That's, I think overall it looks great. And I think you have a firm grasp of the fundamentals, or at least you did at the 2 years ago. I'm sure you're much better now,
Yeah,
but,
obviously. You can
yeah,
see my
for sure. Now I
portfolio.
want to wait a second. Obviously, Mr. Obviously, I want to see a more recent example then. You got to send me something that really shows off your skills now.
Portfolio website? Or
Your portfolio website. That's true. I bet that shows off your skills better. Okay, maybe
well, that
maybe another time then.
so
Well, cool, dude. Do you have any questions about anything that I've brought up?
no questions, but like what I have to follow. I have to follow the file structure you told me, and then CSS bundling like Webpack. But I cannot do
Mhm.
Webpack right now in this time. And what else you told me about?
Trying to eliminate libraries wherever you possibly can.
Okay, eliminate
So, for instance,
jQuery.
eliminating jQuery. Yeah.
Yeah, will save the memory.
CSS variables.
This is very good, right? Okay. Well, we were about to review that Gandhi page.
I know. I looked at the Gandhi page, all right, and it was fine. I just think that I thought this was more interesting.
Oh,
You recommended the Gandhi page, but I looked into the source of the Gandhi page. And I was like, it's not that exciting. I think this is way cooler.
all right. Well, that Gandhi
That's
page
all.
had a book.
It did. It did have that crazy book. Did you do that?
Yeah, basically I learned how to rotate things on 3D on video, and then I tried myself and some stylings, and I got an idea if I could rotate things, then why don't make a bunch of things which I could rotate? And then an idea of making a book popped in my mind. That's why don't I make a flip book? I got
So you did this. Okay. If I cut this into the video, I'm going to include in the background now, like me paging through that book, because I looked at it earlier. Here's why I didn't want to look at that website, by the way, because there wouldn't be much to talk about. Like that was a cool feature, but like there just wouldn't be much feedback. Right? I'd
yeah,
be like, cool CSS. All right, that's it.
yeah.
Right. But when the page turns, it bounces against the other pages.
Yeah.
I don't know how I mean, no idea. No idea how you did that.
Well, that was by Cubic Beezer.
What was it?
Cubic Beezer. Like there's a particular property in CSS. If you just see the code, you will find a property which I had set to a cubic Beezer.
But it's the cubic Bezier is the curve, right? That's like the fade in,
Yeah,
fade out. But that's not what causes them to like spatially know where the other ones are and to bounce like that, right? Did you have to do anything special for that?
you can use cubic Beezer for anything. Like not only fade, you can use for moving things. You can use it for like on the rotate function also.
Huh.
You can use cubic
Okay.
Beezer on anything, any kind of CSS property, whether it's fade, it's movement, or it's rotation.
See, I thought cubic Bezier was just like how fast does it come in and go out? You know, like a curve. You know, like instead you can have the thing fade in gradually, or you can have it start fast and then slow, or you can have the cubic Bezier, which is like a square, right? I don't know. I thought that's what it was, but I must
Think
be
of
wrong.
cubic Bezier as making your things in reality. Like how does a if I just flipped a book, if flipped a page in reality in the physical world, then you would see
Yeah.
it sometimes bounces back. So by just think of cubic Bezier, if it can control the movement of things, and if it can control things, so why don't set it to movement property? So uh, that page would feel more realistic.
Ah, I admit I have never used this in production. I have never actually used the cubic Bezier property. I've always just done like transition. I'll do transition all 0 0.3 seconds, and I forget. Like I'll use some argument there, but I've never used cubic Bezier. Cool. I'll have to look into that. That's neat. It's a slick effect. I mean, well done for sure. Anyways, well, cool. Well, Partak, I hope I've said your name right, and at least
Partha.
I hope I haven't said it 15 different ways. But Partak, thank you very much. Really, it was awesome. It was a
It
pleasure talking to you, and this looks great.
was nice to talk to you too. First time someone gave me a good review.
Anytime, anytime. Do you say namaste to say hello and goodbye?
All of this.
Always.
So namaste.
Namaste.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Everybody go check out Sartak's YouTube channel. Take a look, because I'm gonna do this right now. There we go.
Bye.
All done.